Welcome to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. Like any good marriage, we will debate, evaluate, and sometimes quarrel about how privacy and security impact business in the 21st century.
Hi, Jody Daniels here. I'm the founder and CEO of Red Clover Advisors, a certified women's privacy consultancy. I'm a privacy consultant and certified informational privacy professional providing practical privacy advice to overwhelmed companies.
Hello, I am Justin Daniels. I am a shareholder and corporate M&A and tech transaction lawyer at the law firm Baker Donaldson, advising companies in the deployment and scaling of technology. Since data is critical to every transaction, I help clients make informed business decisions while managing data privacy and cybersecurity risk, and when needed, I lead the legal cyber data breach response brigade.
And this episode is brought to you by Red Clover Advisors. We help companies to comply with data privacy laws and establish customer trust so that they can grow and nurture integrity. We work with companies in a variety of fields, including technology, e-commerce, professional services, and digital media. In short, we use data privacy to transform the way companies do business. Together, we're creating a future where there's greater trust between companies and consumers. To learn more and to check out our best-selling book, Data Reimagined, Building Trust, One Bite at a Time, visit redcloveradvisors.com. Well, hello.
So I have a question for you. So for our listeners out there, our sponsor, Red Clover Advisors, had a big moment. They got a Pacesetter Award for being one of the top 100 growing businesses in Atlanta. And so, Jody, I'm just curious, that was a day and now you're back to the normal everyday grind of your business. What did that mean for you?
Oh, it was really a special moment because it means all the hard work paid off. It was a nice recognition to be able to see so much time with wonderful clients and podcast listeners and supporters who trust in us enough to be able to help those companies comply with privacy laws. And it was a really fun, special time. There's all kinds of cool pictures on LinkedIn.
Indeed. Well, anyway, with that.
How did it feel for you?
How did it feel for me? I thought it was a pretty big moment. You started the business in 2017, and here it is 7 years later, and you're going. And it was my point of what I wrote about today with the turtle. Slow and steady wins the race.
Slow and steady wins the race, yes. And turtles are really cute, just as long as you made sure. So if you didn't, Justin saw a turtle on his mountain bike ride and he came home all focused on the turtle. And I was very focused on, well, why is the turtle in the middle of the bike trail? Is the turtle okay? Did you stop to help the turtle? Is the turtle near the water? Did you pick up the turtle? For everyone concerned, the turtle appears to be okay. That was my main focus, was the turtle safety. All right, but back to privacy. So today, I'm very excited. We have Gretchen Herault, who is the Chief Privacy Officer at Randstad USA and global job board Monster.com. She has held several privacy leadership roles, including Chief Privacy Officer at Haven Healthcare, HIPAA Privacy Officer at GE Healthcare, and Chief Privacy Officer at Nuance Communications. So Gretchen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm very happy and honored to be here.
We won't talk about turtles the whole time. They're so cute.
I hit a mark. So, Gretchen, you have a really interesting career working for some pretty impressive brands. Talk to us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
I think like a lot of people, I didn't start out in privacy. I was a law clerk first and then spent a lot of time in financial services doing market conduct compliance. And so I think having a lengthy career in compliance, I eventually ended up specializing and focusing on privacy, I think, because there's a lot of opportunity to get into technology, particularly newer technologies, and that was an area of interest for me.
Where you are now at Randstad, can you share a little bit of the structure of the privacy program? Like, where does it sit? I get asked this question all the time. Where does privacy belong? And then also kind of curious, is it centralized or is it a bit of a decentralized or a matrix model?
It's a little bit of a mix, I would say. So Randstad USA is the US subsidiary of Randstad NV, which is headquartered in the Netherlands. And so we have a global privacy function, and then each operating subsidiary in the regions where Randstad exists has a privacy function as well. So that's where my role comes in. And I have a small team as well. I'd say we're mostly centralized for most activities that we do within Randstad US.
So, Gretchen, does that mean, for example, let's take the US arm, does that privacy function sit within legal and or in a compliance group? And then how can you share a little bit about how does your team have their privacy function and all the operational pieces set up? In other words, so some people have steering committees, some people, have ongoing meetings. How do you have yours structured?
So our privacy team is part of the legal function within Randstad US. And then I also have a dotted line to our global privacy officer to report to him on the status of key activities or risks and so forth. But we report up to our chief legal officer in the US. And then we work very closely with our security team, of course. And our CISO, coincidentally, is named Gretchen H. So
Very clear. You're going to have, sports jerseys happening.
So if people aren't sure who to go to, they can just come to both or either one of us and we can figure it out. But we have what we call a data protection and information security steering committee that is made up of obviously members of the privacy and security teams, but also other functional areas of the business to help guide us and give us the inputs on the projects that we're working on so that we can make sure that we can implement the requirements that we need to without too much disruption of the business and try and make it as seamless as possible.
And my last functional setup question is a lot of times people will say, who should I have on my team? What are the backgrounds? So can you share, for example, do you have other attorneys on your team? Do you have non-attorneys on your team? I think that would be really helpful.
I do have 2 attorneys on my team, and I also have 1 non-attorney who's a privacy analyst. And I think it's important to have a mixture of both. I think there is a heavy focus on having attorneys on one's team, and I think sometimes that focus is a little misplaced because I think there's a lot of opportunities for contributions from people who aren't attorneys, and I think it lends some diversity of thought into how things are done. And probably helps keep the lawyers in check with some practicality as well. So I'm a big proponent of a mixture of both attorneys and non-attorneys. My other thing that I look for is usually some kind of international experience, whether it's living abroad or being from another country or fluency or proficiency in another language. I think those things are really helpful in the privacy world because it helps give people a cultural understanding that strongly impacts privacy as well.
I love how you mentioned that non-attorneys have a role because as the non-attorney out of this little podcast crew here today, I do think in all seriousness though, a blend is really valuable because that practical in the business pieces and some of their experience matched with the legal analysis is very helpful. That appears to be my phrase today. Very helpful. I've realized I've said that like 400 times. I'm just all about being helpful today.
Oh, I guess I wanted to ask both of you a question, which is I actually have a client and we're working on a couple important transactions where actually operationalizing how we might anonymize data makes us be a less risky vendor. And so I'm just curious from your perspective, Gretchen and Jody, do you think where a non-lawyer really adds value is that operational piece? Because there's one part which is the legal advice, but then there's kind of how do you really operationalize a data minimization or operationalize a DSAR request. What is your perspective on that, Gretchen?
Yeah, I think that can help operationalize things. Just understanding maybe not only the written policies, but then how people actually do things is really important. And so someone with more background in the business itself or deeper into the business can help bring that to everyone's attention as they formulate how they're going to approach that.
I would really agree. I think being able to try and explain it in business terms and business speak and being able to identify and pull out the relevant pieces that the individual frontline and each different functional group needs to do is very important. And that's what I think those business minded privacy team members can bring.
Fair enough. Well, a staffing company has a lot of personal information and more privacy laws keep passing. What are we at, like 17 now?
17 passed, 16 signed.
There you go. So, what have you found to be successful in building a privacy program that covers this data under this patch quilt of laws?
Well, I think most of my background was previously working in a much more global role than currently. And so I had to implement GDPR in prior roles. So for me, I felt it's been a lot like implementing GDPR was a few years ago, where a lot of companies made the decision maybe to go with the strictest standard. And that way they can have mostly one way of doing things and it makes the operations much easier. So I think for us, we felt like California was leading the charge, and eventually either other states would adopt something similar, or maybe there'd even be a federal law adopted. And so we just realized like maybe we should just get ready for the fact that eventually there could be 50 state laws covering the work that we do and the data that we have.
Gretchen, when you were sharing, adopting GDPR in California, one of the questions I'm asked a lot is, how do I align all the differences and look at the differences across the states? Can you share maybe what are one or the two ways that your team tries to approach understanding and keeping up with the changes?
Yeah, for us, we decided really right away when CCPA was adopted that we would apply the rights for data subjects across the board, regardless of their state of residence. And that was really because we felt it would be a lot easier operationally. We didn't think we'd be overwhelmed by requests to respond to, so that we thought that it would be an acceptable approach. We thought it was good for our candidates and talent as far as their experience with Randstad, and simply kind of the right thing to do. So I think our experience as other states have come online has borne that out, where we have not seen a huge increase in requests. We still do get requests from people who are in states where they don't have those rights. But I think it's also because they're hearing about what's happening in other states and they're assuming that they have those rights. So I do think kind of the trend is in that direction. And if you're going to turn down someone's request, I think you might have some difficult follow-up afterward, just because the trend is heading that way, and maybe consumers right now don't really understand that.
One day, all companies will honor Jody and Justin in Georgia.
But not this year.
Not this year. We were maybe going to have some rights for about a minute. Not anymore.
Mm.
Except for companies like Randstad. Except I like my current job, so I won't be in their database anytime soon.
Well, who's going to fire you?
I like my job.
I understand. So, Gretchen, we touched on this in the pre-show, but what is the biggest challenge that the privacy team is facing at this particular moment?
I think right now for us, it's AI. I think there's a lot of eagerness for people to be using AI tools, working with them, and that's regardless of where they sit in an organization. So, people are really jumping on the AI bandwagon, so to speak. So I feel like there's a lot of noise around that because we see things in the news every single day about it, especially in our privacy and security focused reading. We're seeing a lot about it too. But for most companies, we're not developing our own large language models and so forth. Most companies are probably purchasing tools to be used in their business. So I think some of it is a little bit overhyped and distracting. And we kind of need to, I would say, stick to our knitting and to address the risks that AI presents to an organization.
Gretchen, how much is the privacy team getting involved in some of these discussions? It sounds like for example, I've been talking to other companies, and so much of their work, the privacy team is now AI compared to regular privacy pieces. And then other companies are trying to, obviously, they want to be involved. And they also have a broader AI committee where it's a little bit more even.
We're definitely involved. And I would say for us, it's a little bit not cross-functional, but cross-specialty, because in the industry that we're in, it's also an employment rights kind of issue, the use of AI in making hiring, firing, rating decisions. And so, we see the New York City law that came out about a little over a year and a half ago, I think. And so we work together, making sure that we're, aware of the tools that are being used in our organization and vetting them both under privacy laws and the employment laws that may apply.
For new privacy teams that are on the ground getting stood up, or maybe just a new privacy director in a company, what would you recommend? What advice would you offer them?
I would say probably take stock of what's in place already. I think a lot of times you can walk into an organization as a new person and be told, oh, we don't have anything in place, or we don't do privacy well. So I think whether you do a real formal workup or assessment, or do something informally by meeting with people, you can take stock of what's already there and build from that. So, I personally would focus on the externally facing things like a website, and those DSAR processes, to sort of keep people from complaining about your practices, make sure that you aren't doing anything obviously incorrectly, so that you can do, give yourself some bandwidth and some time to then work on the other more fundamental things.
That makes a lot of sense. And I very much agree with the outside approach. That does not mean we don't pay attention to what's on the inside.
Right.
However, anyone, your customers, your prospects, and regulators can all see what is happening on the outside. So you should really get that one in shipshape.
Righty then.
Why are you looking at me strangely? You don't like my shipshape.
I think it's interesting. So, Gretchen, could you share your perspective on what you think your best privacy or security tip might be?
What you mean for someone's personal
Yeah.
life?
Yeah, let's say we're at
Okay.
a we're at a cocktail party and people know what you do, and they say, "Hey, what can I do in my personal life to improve my privacy or security?" If you might have a tip.
I would say use a password manager. That's my number one.
It's always good one.
And
Not 1, 2, 3. Apparently, and when the week we're recording, it's password day later this week. You should not use the password 1, 2, 3, even if you use a password manager.
yeah.
It's still really popular. Or password.
You've never remembered Spaceballs?
No. Remember,
That's a
I
good
get movie fail.
Move. Yes, as long as we're clear on that.
We're okay. It's okay. I'm comfortable with that. Movie fail.
So, Gretchen, I'm curious from a password manager perspective, do you use any kind of secret phrases over top your password, even if they were to get into your password manager, they still might not know the full password, or any other things around password managers that you have thought of?
One thing I've thought of it sort of in a different way is maybe more in the sense of if you're caring for other relatives, make sure that people know how to access everything for you.
Really important. It's a really, really
yeah.
important piece. Gretchen, thanks for highlighting
Yep,
it.
that's a good tip.
Yeah.
Gretchen, when you are not building privacy programs and studying AI tools, what do you like to do for fun?
I like to read. I like ice skating. I love to travel, try new restaurants, and yeah, spend time with my family and our dog.
Well, Gretchen, thank you so much for sharing. We really appreciate it. If people would like to connect and learn more, where could they go?
They can find me on LinkedIn, or they can email me directly at gretchen.herault, which is HERAULT at randstadusa.com.
Wonderful. Well, Gretchen, thank you again.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be with you here today.
Thanks for listening to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes and check us out on LinkedIn. See you next time.